We have come to the last part of lecture 2, and we will be looking at the finest granularity, which is the litmus test, competitive litmus test, for this part of the lecture. So the third lens, which we're going to look at very fine granularity, is how IT assets can give you sustainable competitive advantage. Now, when we talk about IT assets, remember we're looking at an application, could be an infrastructure element, could be a data asset. Now, creating competitive advantage actually needs a kind of IT asset which is valuable in your industry but is rare with your rivals. That creates the advantage. However, these two characteristics are not enough to sustain advantage. To sustain advantage, your arch rivals must not be able to copy it, so it has to be what we call as inimitable, and nor could they achieve the same ends differently, non-substitutable. So let's look at IT assets that are valuable but not rare. So when you look at IT infrastructure is valuable, but it rarely generates any competitive advantage. It has operational but not strategic value. It is necessary because it's a competitive necessary, and it provides the foundation for other IT assets that might generate competitive advantage. The other two classes of IT assets, applications and data, are rarely sustainable competitive advantages in of themselves. However, they can be used as tools to construct a sustainable competitive advantage. Most purchased applications used innovatively to create competitive advantage by doing something valuable and rare can be easily copied or acquired by your rivals. Successful IT-driven business innovations attract imitators. Imitation destroys their rarity. Managers often suspend the imitability test under the mistaken belief that valuable innovation will remain, IT innovation will remain rare. Apps that are valuable but not rare can increase a firm's operational effectiveness, but do not competitively differentiate a firm from its arch rivals. So having them creates competitive parity. And you can see that with many analytic initiatives. Caesars Casino did an analytics-driven strategy to predict profitable customers, propelled it to industry leadership, and then once its rivals copied it, in 2015 it had to declare bankruptcy. So we talked about how purchased apps can be imitated, and that even if they are valuable, it destroys their rarity. So the easiest way to kind of look at this is to say, oh, well, let's build custom-built apps. And while it is expensive to reverse engineer custom-built apps, it is possible. And also constantly building custom-built apps is financially expensive and risky. And it is possible for, unless there's something really unique about it, it is possible for your rivals to actually copy them. Example is Citibank had a mobile, using a smartphone, you could actually cash in your checks, and that was a huge competitive advantage for Citibank when it was the only bank that actually gave that application. But however, it was using essentially non-proprietary data, which is a serial number and a bank routing number, which every other bank had, and soon now every other bank offers that same application or the app. So to kind of reiterate, when you have valuable and which is plus rare, asset creates competitive advantage, but unless it's inimitable, which is non-copyable and non-substitutable, your competitive advantage disappears very quickly. So let's look at something about IT assets. Most IT assets, operationally valuable corporate IT assets, are not rare and have no strategic value. Remember the first, we talked about IT as a commodity, IT as an infrastructure commodity, and therefore has no strategic value and become their competitive necessities. And custom-built IT assets are only give strategic advantage, sustainable advantage, if they are difficult to imitate, and they can be reverse engineered, but at great costs, and so therefore it's temporary unsustainable advantage through custom-built IT. The two ways of constructing a more sustainable advantage is on how you use your applications. When you kind of use it, the apps and data together to construct another asset, that's something your rivals would struggle to replicate. One way is to actually create a network effect using social network, and so like Facebook does. But that's a huge challenge to actually build that network, and it takes time. And the second is to blend the application with proprietary data to create an analytics-driven edge. I think example Nest thermometer uses usage data with intelligent software and a different business model to deliver a product that's not seen below. Netflix has used its movie recommendation application, product recommendation engine built into Amazon. These are hard to replicate because there is a combination of proprietary data with that application. So we see that as, so it's not just custom built IT assets, but actually combining it with data analytics to actually build your sustainable competitive edge. So let's look at the analytics approach. The analytics approach, we have four approaches. We have predictive modeling, which is the workhorse of analytics, and it dominates today. And those of you who are going to do your MBA 710 class, analytics class, will actually be doing a good bit of the predictive modeling. There's pattern discovery, which can be correlational or descriptive. And correlational is collaborative. There's collaborative filtering, social network analysis, Bayesian analysis, and descriptive is cluster analysis and data mining. And finally, there's model discovery, which is huge promise for big data, which includes machine learning and neural networks. And finally, there is sentiment analysis. Now let's look at each one very quickly. Predictive modeling is it's a set of statistical methods. You can use regression, and it's essentially your core statistics that use a bunch of variables to predict the outcome. So whether the outcome is purchasing, credit default, account cancellation, whether it's sales, this is the workhorse approach of analysis. Pattern discovery is used to discover patterns of things, and in that we have correlational one, where collaborative filtering matches one customer's behavior to another. For example, 60% of customers who watch Goodfellas also watch Scarface, and is widely used to generate recommendations for high volume movies, books, music, smartphone applications. Social network analysis identifies opportunities, assuming that people have preferences similar to their friends, and it's less reliable than predictive models. And then finally, Bayesian analysis uses certain product attributes to predict other products with similar attributes that will appeal to a customer. So if you buy a toothpaste, you're more likely to buy a toothbrush. The probability you're going to buy a toothbrush is much higher. And of course, that seems to be self-explanatory and simple, but there are other surprising trends which can be done through Bayesian analysis. In the pattern discovery, the descriptive part, we have cluster analysis, which allows us to recognize unrecognized micro segments of the population which may have not been addressed, and it actually looks at the attributes of that segment. And data mining allows us to extract patterns from large data sets, which this is very useful in actually looking at patterns which I have there in the data. When we look at model discovery, we essentially reverse engineer predictive model from large data sets by combining artificial intelligence and statistics, and this is called machine learning and neural networks. And finally, there is sentiment analysis, which basically looks at textual data to spot emotions, attitudes, and trends. So there is advantage when we use analytics with the applications to generate business intelligence or insight. So in summary, we kind of looked at how we're dealing with big data streams, ephemeral data streams, and cheap computing, and firms have struggled to actually harness this. The importance of insights, inputs, and better insights from non-IT managers is we kind of see that how important it is. We've kind of looked at three different lenses on how IT is affecting your industry, how it can alter how your firm creates value in comparison with its arch rivals, and finally whether an IT asset's advantage is competitively sustainable. We looked at how margins are the firm's oxygen supply, that things are, it is really important. If money is going out more than money is coming into your firm, it cannot survive. IT reduces industry attractiveness, it increases transparency, blurring industry boundaries, enabling better new business models, and it squeezes margins. But also it contains some antidotes by increasing productivity or creating unconventional competitive barriers using network effects or analytics driven customization. We can two ways we can use IT to reimagine value chains, and we can either alter one step or we can alter the linkages, and that linkages kind of goes down to the upstream and downstream partners. And finally, the litmus test is about how do we make our IT based advantage sustainable. And with this we finish chapter 2.